Have you ever felt drained just by being around a certain person, like they've mastered the art of turning every meeting into a mental battlefield? Do you find yourself replaying conversations late at night, wondering if you're the crazy one, when deep down, you know their behavior is anything but normal? And have you ever wished for a roadmap that shows you exactly how to remain steady, confident, and calm in the presence of people who seem determined to rob you of your peace? If so, buckle up. In the next few moments, we're diving into 15 smart ways to navigate toxic dynamics with clarity and strength so that you can finally reclaim the emotional space you deserve. 1. Recognize the repeated red flags. One of the biggest hurdles in dealing with toxic individuals is actually spotting the signs early on. Toxic behavior isn't always loud and obvious. Sometimes it's subtle, like backhanded compliments or jokes designed to belittle you. Think about the coworker who always finds a way to slip in a jab about your inexperience, or the friend who constantly points out your flaws disguised as helpful feedback. If you're constantly defending, explaining, or smoothing over conflicts, that's a clear red flag. A big step forward is training yourself to notice these toxic patterns right away. Some people are chronic boundary pushers. They test how you'll respond by throwing out small, seemingly harmless digs. If you brush it off each time, you inadvertently signal it's acceptable for them to keep going. Recognizing these patterns isn't about becoming paranoid. It's about understanding that certain behaviors are not mere coincidences. They happen again and again, and you deserve better than to dismiss them. Once you identify the repeated red flags, you'll feel less confused when these interactions arise. You won't be stuck questioning your sanity or second-guessing your instincts. Instead, you'll say, "Wait a minute, I've seen this before," and that awareness alone prevents you from stumbling into the same pitfalls. 2. Separate the person from their actions. It's easy to fuse someone's toxic actions with who they are as a whole, especially when they're intimately connected to you, like a family member, a close friend, or a partner. But Stoic wisdom, and a good dose of real-life experience, reminds us that it's helpful to differentiate the person from their behaviors. Why? Because labeling someone all bad can push you into an emotional corner, making you feel you must either justify them entirely or cut them off completely. Imagine a colleague who is extremely kind and funny most days, yet occasionally uses manipulative tactics to get you to do their work. You're torn. They're fun to be around, but why do they keep taking advantage of me? By understanding that even well-intentioned people can resort to toxic behaviors under stress or habit, you free yourself from the guilt of thinking you either have to hate them or let them walk all over you. Separating the person from the act also helps you respond more calmly. Instead of labeling them a nightmare, you might think, "That was a manipulative comment, and I won't engage with it." You address the behavior, not the entire individual. This shift doesn't excuse or accept the toxic act. It clarifies your response. You can say, "I enjoy your sense of humor, but I'm not okay with how you cornered me into taking on your tasks." Doing so keeps you grounded, preventing you from spiraling into emotional extremes. 3. Control your reaction, not their conduct. We can't dictate how other people behave, but we can definitely manage our own responses. You may have someone in your life who constantly runs late, always has an excuse, and never apologizes. You can't force them to become punctual, but you can decide not to plan important meetings around them or to have a backup plan in case they delay you again. Essentially, you're controlling what's within your sphere, in this case, your schedule and your mental calm. Toxic folks love seeing your frustration bubble over because they feed on the drama. If you explode in anger or sink into tears, they've effectively hijacked your emotional energy. By focusing on your own reaction, you deny them that satisfaction. Picture someone who tries to provoke you with harsh criticisms about your personal life. Instead of retorting, you take a deep breath, affirm your self-worth, and calmly say, "I hear what you're saying, but I'm not engaging with that right now." You've just sidestepped their trap. Controlling your reaction is one of the core teachings of ancient Stoic philosophy. External events, or people, are not always in your hands, but your inner state is. We can't transform someone's negativity by sheer will, but we can decide whether or not we let that negativity seep into our soul. That's real power, knowing you can remain unruffled despite their attempts to rattle you. 4. No apologies for setting boundaries. Ever been in a situation where you said no to someone's request, only to spend the next 15 minutes nervously justifying why you can't help? Or you established a clear personal rule, such as not answering work calls on weekends, only to end up writing a long-winded apology for it? That's boundary guilt, and it's one of the sneakiest ways toxic people keep you under their control. You do not need to apologize for setting boundaries that protect your well-being. Yes, it might feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you're used to being a people pleaser. But the short-term awkwardness is worth the long-term peace. When you set a boundary, whether it's telling your friend you cannot always be their late-night emotional dump or informing your sibling you won't pick up the phone during your me time, you are declaring, "My mental space matters." Toxic individuals thrive on your sense of guilt. They'll attempt to paint you as selfish or uncaring. "Oh, so you don't have time for me?" Or, "I guess our friendship doesn't mean much to you." This is classic manipulation, designed to make you cave. But stand firm, politely and calmly. "I'm not available right now," or "I won't be doing that," is a complete sentence. You don't have to add "sorry" at the end to soften it. Setting boundaries is not about cruelty or arrogance. It's self-respect in action. 6. Document the incidents. Yes, really. This method might seem overly formal, but it's surprisingly effective, especially in work settings or complicated personal relationships. Whenever a toxic person says or does something particularly hurtful or manipulative, note it down. Include the date, the gist of what was said or done, and how you responded. This serves multiple purposes. Firstly, it helps you see the pattern objectively. Toxic individuals often engage in gaslighting. "I never said that," or "you're exaggerating." Having a record means you can cross-check your memory and not fall for their reality-bending claims. Secondly, if it ever escalates to a point where you need to confront them, or even raise the issue with a third party, like HR in a workplace, you have concrete evidence. Moreover, journaling these interactions can be cathartic and clarifying. Sometimes, while writing them down, you realize you've been justifying or trivializing truly unacceptable behavior. The process of documentation can jolt you out of denial, making it crystal clear. This is real, and it's not okay. By collecting these records, you arm yourself with clarity. Toxic people rely on confusion and your self-doubt to keep manipulating you. Records cut through that fog. Additionally, seeing the incidents line by line can motivate you to take bolder steps toward boundary enforcement or eventual distancing. 7. Use calm, neutral language. A hallmark tactic of toxic personalities is to escalate. If they sense you're getting emotional, angry, hurt, defensive, they'll ramp it up to keep you on the back foot. It's vital, then, to maintain a calm, neutral tone. When you respond calmly, you short-circuit their plan to drive you to an emotional edge. Think of statements like, "I understand your point, but this is my decision," or "I see your perspective, yet I'm choosing differently." Using calm language also helps protect your mental state. The act of speaking in a measured tone signals your own brain that there's no emergency. You're not in fight or flight. This can be especially helpful in tense family dynamics or with coworkers who rely on stirring up friction. By deliberately adopting a neutral voice, you keep your stress level in check. They might raise their volume, throw out personal attacks, or try guilt tripping, but if you stay steady, eventually they run out of ammunition. It's not about winning an argument or proving them wrong. It's about preserving your equilibrium. Some might interpret your calm tone as cold, but that's their problem, not yours. You can show empathy in your choice of words, like, "I hear you," without letting them toss you into emotional turmoil. In short, your words should reflect your stance, respectful but resolute. Let the drama swirl around you, but don't let it penetrate your stable core. 8. Adopt the watchful observer mindset. Imagine you're watching a movie scene where a character is obviously manipulative, twisting facts, and provoking emotional reactions. As a viewer, you'd see right through them, right? That's the vantage point you can adopt in real life. Instead of being fully absorbed in the toxic person's game, step back, like you're observing a play on stage. This mental shift helps you see the patterns, the tactics, and the triggers they're using, without getting pulled into the emotional undertow. This watchful observer mindset is rooted in a form of mindfulness. You notice your own internal responses, rising frustration, or the urge to defend yourself, but instead of acting on them, you just observe. This short-circuits your knee-jerk reactions. It's almost like you say, "Oh, so that's how they try to incite me. Interesting." You convert a reactive process into a reflective one. When you do this, you'll notice how some people repeat the same toxic lines or behaviors, expecting a meltdown from you. With an observer's detachment, you can calmly respond, or even calmly walk away if that's the better option. Over time, the manipulative party might sense they're losing their power. They expect you to be fully on stage, caught up in the drama. But you've stepped into the role of the audience, calmly assessing the script. That vantage point is a powerful deterrent to further manipulation. 9. Lean on a trusted friend or advisor. The tricky thing about toxic relationships is how isolating they can be. Whether it's a controlling partner, a manipulative colleague, or a narcissistic parent, they may try to make you think you're alone, that no one else understands. That's precisely why you need a trustworthy confidant. Having even one person in your corner, someone who can offer an unbiased perspective, makes a huge difference. Sharing what's happening with a genuine friend, mentor, or counselor can illuminate aspects you might be downplaying. Perhaps they'll spot gaslighting tactics or emotional blackmail you overlooked. They can remind you you're not crazy, nor are you overreacting. This outside perspective is crucial because toxic people are masters at warping your sense of reality. Furthermore, a confidant can provide emotional backup in scenarios where you might question your decisions. If you choose to limit or end contact with a toxic individual, having a friend's support helps you stand firm. They also help you plan exit strategies, whether from a job, a circle of acquaintances, or a personal relationship. If there's any escalation, you'll have someone to rely on. You might not always take their suggestions, but having a sounding board ensures you're not trapped in your own swirling anxieties. 10. Avoid over-explaining or over-justifying. Toxic people have a field day when you feed them long, detailed explanations. The more you talk, the more ammo they can twist and throw back at you. For instance, if you decline a social invitation with a complicated reason, "I have to do X, then Y. Plus I'm feeling a bit under the weather," they might latch onto each detail to argue why you should still come, or guilt trip you about not prioritizing them. Keep it simple. "I can't make it, but thanks for thinking of me," is enough. The more you resist the urge to justify yourself, the less space you leave for them to pounce. Over-justifying is an open invitation for them to dissect your logic. A polite but concise "No, I'm not available," or "No, I'm not comfortable with that," is typically all you need. Remember, you're not attending a court trial where you must present evidence for your personal boundaries. If you habitually over-explain, it might stem from wanting to be liked or fearing conflict. But ironically, toxic folks see those explanations as a door to further push you around. So keep your responses succinct and unambiguous. This helps shift the dynamic from you always defending yourself to them having to accept your stance at face value. 11. Let natural consequences unfold. Sometimes you want to rescue the toxic individual from the mess they create. Maybe you step in to fix their problems, bail them out of crises, or calm the storms they start. While that might seem compassionate, it often backfires. They learn that they can behave recklessly or manipulatively because you'll always be there to sort it out. Consider letting them experience the natural outcome of their actions. If they're perpetually late and disrespect your time, show up on schedule and begin the activity without them. If they refuse to handle their responsibilities, let them handle the fallout. By removing the safety net you've been offering, you demonstrate that you won't shield them from real-world consequences. This approach is not about revenge, it's about encouraging accountability. Toxic individuals rarely learn to respect boundaries unless they face the real costs of crossing them. For instance, if a friend always borrows money and never repays, The day you politely say, "I'm sorry, I can't lend you money anymore," they might become upset, but they'll also have to deal with their own financial issues for once. It might wake them up, or at least it shields you from further enabling them. 12. Give yourself permission to forgive and move on. Forgiveness isn't an endorsement of their toxic conduct. It's a release for your own emotional well-being. The anger, resentment, and frustration you store inside only poisons you, not them. By choosing to let go of grudges, you lighten your own emotional load. Forgiving a toxic person might feel counterintuitive, especially if they never apologized or changed. But think of forgiveness not as an absolution for them, but as liberation for you. There's a difference between forgiving and reconciling. You might forgive them internally for your own peace, yet still maintain strong boundaries or minimal contact. The Stoic principle here is that harboring bitterness consumes your mental real estate. So yes, you can say, "I forgive them for how they treated me," and at the same time say, "I won't let them treat me that way again." True forgiveness aims to sever the emotional hold they have over you. This process might be gradual. Maybe you initially can't stomach the thought of letting go, but each day, remind yourself that clinging to resentment drags you down far more than it affects them. Self-compassion is key. You're not forgiving because they deserve it. You're forgiving because you deserve emotional freedom. 13. Practice self-reflection to avoid future toxic links. After dealing with a toxic dynamic, it's crucial to reflect on how it began. What made you vulnerable to that situation? Did you ignore early warning signs? Were you locked into a pattern of trying to save difficult people? Understanding these angles reduces the risk of repeating the same scenario. Self-reflection isn't about blaming yourself, it's about gleaning lessons. Maybe you realize you crave external validation, which caused you to overlook red flags. Or maybe you see that your fear of conflict led you to let small slights slide, eventually snowballing into major disrespect. Owning your part in the dynamic, the part where you didn't protect yourself, not the part where they were toxic, is empowering. It teaches you how to set stronger boundaries sooner next time. Journaling can help. Write down the timeline of events, your emotional responses, and moments you felt uneasy but stayed quiet. Then note the turning points. When did you finally say enough? By noticing these patterns, you cultivate a sharper sense of what healthy interactions look like and how to swiftly guard against toxicity in the future. This self-awareness is invaluable. It ensures you don't keep re-enrolling in the same lesson with new toxic people. 14. Remember, you are not helpless, even if it feels that way. Toxic people often wield manipulation tactics that make you feel trapped. They might threaten to harm themselves if you leave, or say your life will be ruined if you cut them off. They can paint a picture where you have no escape. But the truth is, you always have options, even if they're difficult ones. Accepting that you have choices, like seeking professional help, changing jobs, moving out, or calling a supportive friend, reaffirms your agency. Yes, some choices come with steep costs. Relocating might be expensive, leaving a job might be stressful, or going low contact with a family member might stir guilt. But preserving your mental health is not optional. You can't bloom in a garden that's toxic to your roots. Knowing you're not helpless reawakens a sense of empowerment. It frees you from the illusions they perpetuate, illusions that keep you locked in place. Always remember, the sense of helplessness is often manufactured by the toxic environment. The moment you see beyond it is the moment you begin to reclaim your life. 15. Know when it's time to walk away, and don't look back. Finally, the ultimate step, recognizing when the only solution is to exit. Some toxic individuals will never change, no matter how many boundaries you set or how calmly you respond. You could stand on your head trying to reason with them, but their pattern remains. In those scenarios, walking away is not a defeat, it's a triumph of self-preservation. Walking away might mean ending a long-term friendship, divorcing a spouse, moving out of a toxic roommate situation, or permanently distancing from a family member. These decisions can weigh heavily, as you might worry about regret or missing them. But no relationship is worth sacrificing your entire emotional well-being. The heartbreak of letting go is often overshadowed by the profound relief that follows. It's not about punishing them. It's about sparing yourself from further harm. The moment you choose to leave is the moment you declare, "I am worthy of healthy, respectful connections." In so doing, you open the door for better relationships to enter your life, ones that energize rather than exhaust you. Yes, it's painful, but it's a short-term pain leading to long-term emotional freedom. The final key is not looking back with regrets or what-ifs. Because if you've tried everything else and the toxicity persists, you owe it to yourself to find peace. That's the most powerful statement you can make about your own dignity. We've just journeyed through 15 smart ways to handle toxic people, from spotting the very first signs of manipulation to deciding when it's best to walk away for good. Along the way, we've touched on controlling your reactions, setting unwavering boundaries, leaning on your support system, practicing self-reflection, and ultimately understanding that you are never helpless. These strategies are rooted in courage, self-awareness, and the conviction that you deserve an environment where you can flourish. Toxic individuals will always exist, but you get to choose how you respond, whether you hand them the keys to your emotional well-being or firmly lock those doors. You don't need to remain trapped in their negativity. By applying these 15 steps, you gain tools to maintain your calm, preserve your confidence, and, most importantly, protect your mental health. If you found this content helpful, please hit the like button to let us know, and share this with anyone else who might need these insights. For more tips, stories, and practical techniques on reclaiming your emotional freedom, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're dedicated to empowering you with the know-how to navigate life's toughest interpersonal challenges. Remember, you have the right to live free from toxic influence, to stand tall in your own worth, and to foster relationships that honor who you truly are. Stay strong, stay mindful, and keep standing guard over your precious peace.